up, yo? Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. A Fitness Live every Sunday, 12 Eastern Time. Today we are talking about intensity versus volume, which builds more muscle and why most lifters get it wrong. But first,
updates.
Camille's got updates.
I really don't have updates, you guys. Things are going pretty well with my reverse diet. I stayed around 1950 again this week. I'm pretty much the same weight for all intensive purposes. So I thought that went well. I'm going to hover here for a little bit. We have the holidays coming, you guys. We've got lots of Halloween activities, Thanksgiving activities, Christmas activities. So there's going to be no shortage of eating going on. So I'm okay with kind of pumping the brakes where I'm at right now. And then, we'll get back on the gain train during the holidays.
Hey, Lee, Dawn, what's up, Aileen? Good day. Native Grit, welcome back, Native Grit.
Yeah. What about you this week? How did it go?
I'm very pleased. I'm getting bigger, I'm getting stronger, but the scale's actually going down. So I'm very much feel great, feel strong, injury-free right now.
Good.
All my lifts are going up. So
and you held the calories, I think, the same this week as last week?
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. That's what you want.
Yeah. Lost another pound, which is great. I don't feel weak. I don't feel like I'm at a deficit. So, I'm at a deficit through the week and then a surplus on the weekend, and it's working out great.
That's awesome. All right, you guys. Well, welcome to 88 Fitness Training's YouTube channel. If you are new to the channel, I'm Camille and this is James. And we talk about all things hypertrophy. I bring the science. James brings more of the practical sense, but we try to keep it simple and teach you guys all the basic principles of how to get those gains. So if you really enjoy today's content and want to keep these lives going, please hit that super thanks button. I appreciate those that have already done it. But all right, let's jump into today's topic. And so hopefully everyone's really interested because it's pretty controversial on
extremely controversial. And I'm not sure there's an answer yet.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, we're going to talk about intensity versus volume today and which one actually builds more muscles. So definitely stay tuned and we're going to break it down for you. All right. Bonjour. Yes, bonjour.
French. What's bonjour mean?
Good morning, I think. Yeah, or hello. All right. So we're going to start off with some definitions. I want to kind of get into what is intensity versus effort, because in social media, people use these interchangeably a lot. They're like, man, this workout was intense today. So what exactly do they mean when they say that? Because it can mean different things.
Sure. Big T's on. Welcome back,
Hey,
Big T. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So in terms of intensity, when James and I use the word intensity, we are talking about how heavy your lift is relative to kind of like your 1 rep max, if you will. So intensity is a very objective thing. You can actually measure it. It's a certain percentage of your 1 rep max, basically.
Yeah, if you do it right, it's objective. Mm-hmm. If you do it wrong, it's subjective. Clear out the crap and make it objective, That's putting numbers to it.
Absolutely. So what James is kind of referring to is most people, when they say, I had an intense workout, they're actually describing effort. Effort is how hard or challenging something feels to you. So very, very individualized, very, very subjective. In the weightlifting community, we try to take some of that subjectivity out of it by using the rate of perceived effort scale, the Borg scale, if you will. I kind of like it. James absolutely is like, RPE is crap.
Any trainer that's been in the industry for any amount of time will tell you RPE is crap. People think they're working hard when they're not. Even you said it last week.
No, I agree with that.
Put more weight on my clients' things than they think they can do. Yeah. And they do it.
So for me, I use it as a gauge of how, like, where to start my weights at when I'm warming up. And as I'm getting to those maximal sets, I use the RPE as a gauge to help me not misjudge, right? Like if I'm warming up and I want to be pretty light effort, I'm not going to go in there with like an RPE of 9, like all out. Like that's going to be a completely different weight set for me. So I use it as kind of a gauge to do that. James doesn't use it at all, I don't think. But
it's a flawed system. It's a flawed scale. It's nothing.
Yeah. So in any case, yeah, effort's very subjective. Something can feel intense, but it doesn't necessarily mean it is intense. And so you guys have probably all experienced this. Like anytime I'm doing leg day and I'm warming up, I can make 20 pounds on the leg extension feel very intense, right? Like it pretty much always hurts. Or I can do 150 pounds on it and it still hurts, right? Like it feels challenging no matter what weight's on that thing, I tell you.
We talked about me bench pressing 315. Mm-hmm. That was the hardest I could push. But guess what? We added 5 pounds and I got it again. So it was not the hardest I could push.
Right. So I think that gets mixed up a lot. I think on social media, when people are talking about intensity, they're actually talking about effort.
Yep.
They're not actually going out there trying to calculate their 1 rep max or really tracking how hard something is in terms of the load. So just keep that in mind. When we use the word intensity, we're really talking about percent of 1 rep max.
It's a lot of different definitions. I mean, you come out of your boss's office and just got chewed out. You're going to say, man, that was intense. There was no physical anything going on in there, but it was intense, right?
Right.
Big T, post leg day got me so sore today. You did it right, T,
That's
my
right.
man. Good rest day, baby.
Good morning, Angel. Welcome
Angel's
back.
Welcome back, Angel.
Yeah, so now let's talk about failure points and definitions for that because people use those terms kind of interchangeably too. So there's technical failure, which, that really means you've done your last clean rep before your form breaks down. So it's actually a really ideal way to fail when hypertrophy is your goal because you really shouldn't be doing ill-formed reps on any of your sets that you're doing.
I'm with you, except partials. Mm-hmm. And if they're planned, don't just throw the partials in there, plan them.
Right.
Native Grit, dude, always working out alone. I work at 75, 8%, 85% on lifts.
I think that's actually really great, Native Grit. You're going to hear us talk later in there. Like anything above 40%, where it's, really 60 to 85% is ideal. So you're right there in that range. And we'll talk about that in a second here, so stay tuned.
Yes, and if you're talking about lifts that need a spotter, yes.
For sure.
Do not go to failure on a squat. Do not go to failure on a bench press. Please do not do it. Barbell curls, pull-ups, pull-downs, go to failure. It's safe. Yeah. Don't go to failure on lifts that aren't safe.
For sure. All right, so technical failure, last clean rep before your form breaks down. So then the other type of failure is muscular failure. This means like no matter how hard you tried, you literally cannot move more weight. You are like maximal strain. And the thing with this one and why it's not that great for hypertrophy from my perspective is that it's high fatigue costs, right? Like you are creating so much fatigue, so much damage on your muscle. It's not really a conducive environment for you to build bigger muscles. Like you've taken it too far and you've taken it past being able to do it with clean form.
You short circuit your body. You go to failure till it doesn't work anymore. And this is where it's going to get controversial because too much effort, you dig into the energy too much, but how many sets does it take to make muscles?
Good question.
Angel, I only go all out when I use machines. Safety first. That's a good point. I didn't think about that. You can go all out on machines as well. They are designed. You're not going to get hurt or die if you fail on a machine.
I would still caution you guys and go to technical failure where the form breaks down. You'd not be like heaving the weight up, bouncing it off the machine or anything like that.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Form is always first. So once your form starts breaking down, you better go to partials or end your set.
Yeah. And I promise we're going to answer the question, you guys, for you today. But I do want to take a moment to talk about attempt to answer the question.
Okay.
I do want to take a moment to talk about muscle fibers and recruitment of them.
Yeah.
You know, your body's composed of 3 types of main fibers. You have your slow twitch fibers, they're your type 1 fibers. You've got your type 2 fibers, which are type 2, A and X. And then you've got your, well, I already said type 2X fibers. Those are your fast twitch fibers, your largest fibers. And the thing that's interesting about these large fibers, they actually have the highest propensity to grow, right? Out of all 3 types of fibers. But here's the thing, when you lift, your body only recruits what's needed, right? So if I'm lifting a pencil, I'm probably only recruiting my type 1 fibers, right? My endurance fibers. I'm not really doing anything. I take maybe a 20-pound dumbbell. Well, maybe I'm actually recruiting type 1, type 2A fibers now. So I've recruited more. I take a 45-pound plate. Well, maybe I'm recruiting all 3 types of fibers. I mean, I'm just giving you guys an example. But if we're talking about wanting our muscles to grow, why wouldn't we want to target the ones that have the best ability to grow? So I want to make sure that right off the bat, when I'm lifting, I'm recruiting all 3 of those types of fibers and not just type 1 fibers.
Yeah, 100%. Did you all catch on to that? The heavier she went, the more muscles she recruited. And remember, your muscle fibers fire at all or nothing fashion. And you want to fire as many muscle fibers as you can, muscle cells, excuse me. You've seen the video of the guy, skinny janitor dude. He's a power lifter, but he looks like nothing. Some people are blessed that they fire more muscle cells than other people. Most people can only recruit 30 to 60% of their muscle fibers, muscle cells. Mm-hmm. Whereas others are blessed, they can recruit 100%. So you see the janitor guy, he's all over social media. He acts like he's a janitor, but he's a power lifter. He goes in there and cleans the big weights, and then he lifts them, and the guys are looking at him like, oh, what the heck? Because he looks like nothing. He does. He looks like absolute nothing, but the dude is stronger than strong. What's the other guy? Ant?
Oh, the human ant, power lifter.
little guy, but man, can he move some weight.
Yeah.
Anatoly, there it is, right?
Yeah.
It's very strong. There it is.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So I like to think of it as like a muscle recruitment ladder, you guys. Like the higher the intensity is, meaning the high percent of your 1 rep max, you're going to recruit more of those muscle fibers. And so really you want to make sure that you're bringing that intensity to your workouts at least somewhere in the week, because if you're not, think about how many reps and how much you would have to do to actually reach true failure of all of those muscle fibers. Like you'd be in there curling that pencil for weeks, and maybe you would burn through your type 1 fibers and recruit some type 2s. I don't know. But, it's just something to think about there when it comes to intensity.
Yeah, it's to me, it's pretty common sense. The heavier you lift, the more muscle you got to recruit. The more muscle fibers, more muscle cells you recruit, the bigger your muscle is going to get. And again, I'm going to say it again, they fire at all or nothing fashion. So if you're lifting that pencil, most of them aren't firing because you don't need them. Now you put 500 pounds on the bar and you lift that. Oh, my goodness gracious. Now you're recruiting some muscle fibers, right?
Yeah.
Big T, I started using 10 grams of creatine. I noticed being able to put up some heavier weight. Get some T.
Yeah.
Fantastic, brother. Yeah, I've been doing 10 grams for a couple weeks now. You still on 10?
Yeah, I'm still doing 10.
Well, I'm going to say 10 to 20 because I've got, 5 to 10 in the pre-workout, and then I take 5 to 10 on the side. So.
Yeah, I tried taking 20. I don't know if you guys have heard it. I've read some things saying that like 20 grams of creatine can erase the sleep debt if you get like a night of no sleep and you really need to perform. I'm not convinced. So I'd be curious if anyone's tried that or heard that on there.
Listen, anybody that's gone a couple days without sleeping knows that's complete BS. I don't care what you take, caffeine, whatever it is, it's not going to work after 2 or 3 days of no sleep. Aileen, I will start on 15 grams this week. All right.
All right, so kind of going back to, applied science meets basic science, and a lot of literature and studies that they've done, like we know that if you are lifting above 20% of your 1 rep max, it's rarely going to produce growth, you guys. Like you actually need to be somewhere. So if you are lifting below 20% of your 1 rep max, it's probably not going to produce gains. I mean, sorry. If you are lifting below 20% of your 1 rep max,
that better be a warm-up set.
It's not going to produce gains. And we do know from a lot of literature and studies that around 40 to 80% of your 1 rep max actually leads to pretty significant hypertrophy. So that kind of gets to where Native Grit, I forget what percentage 75 to 85%. That's perfect. That's really, really perfect. And in fact, the more advanced you are, the more intense you actually probably need to lift because you've already adapted to, the lower weights and loads.
Yeah, and I don't know if we're going to get to, I might be jumping the gun, but most people can't go all out intense 100%. That's why Mike Mentzer's theory is flawed. Most people don't have the ability to go to 100% failure. They stop way before that.
Well, even if they could, I think the fatigue and the damage would be too great. When you think about muscle protein synthesis and your body's ability to kind of spike it, every couple of days and sustain it, I think the damage would be too great for the body. So, I don't know. I think that range is pretty doable for most people, regardless of how old you are, regardless of your beginner, intermediate, or advanced. Like 40 to 80% is really doable.
And most people on the rate of perceived effort, I think that 40 to 80% is as big and as much as they can give when they're not doing 100%.
Right. So, practical takeaway here, you guys, the heavier you lift, the more muscle fibers you're going to recruit. And this spikes muscle protein synthesis, right? So you're not going to spike muscle protein synthesis if you're lifting super light. I'll just put it out there. If you're doing that below 20% of your 1 rep max, you are not going to trigger that mechanism for growth. And that's really what we're chasing at the gym, right? It's not I'm chasing a heavy weight to chase a heavy weight. I'm trying to trigger muscle protein synthesis so I can grow bigger muscles.
Hypertrophy.
Yep, hypertrophy. And your intensity and the load are kind of factors in that equation.
100%.
Yeah. So while light work may grow muscle too, at least initially, it will come a time where you're going to have to push to a higher limit to continue to grow.
We're all gym folks. We see the aerobics room, right? There's a class called Body Pump. They lift weights for the whole hour. Is anybody in that class jacked? I watch the same people do that class for 10 years. None of them are jacked. Do they look good? Yeah, absolutely. Were they toned and firm? Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Were they humongously muscular? No, they were not.
Yeah. All right. So we kind of talked intensity pretty good. So we can switch over maybe to volume. Talk about volume. When I think about volume, to put it simply, it's basically the total amount of work that you're going to do. So it's the reps times the weights you're using times how many sets you're doing.
Talking day, week.
Well, and this is where it gets complicated, right? Because most exercises hit multiple muscles. And so if you're looking from a practical sense on like how do you actually track your volume, you're going to track it weekly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I watched a pretty good show on YouTube with a bunch of fitness people, influenced PhDs, and they all danced around and didn't give you an answer because they don't have it. And the question was exactly how many sets. The smartest answer was different body parts need different number of sets.
Yes, that is true.
That was the smartest answer, but nobody would lock it down and say exactly how many sets you need per body part to make them grow because they don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. Like when you're thinking of like all of your push muscles, you use them all day long, your quads, your biceps, whatever, you're probably gonna need more sets on those. You look at like some of the pull muscles, triceps, hamstrings, maybe a little less, right? Because you can, use more intensity on them and create more trauma or damage there to signal growth. So I agree on sets being varied based on body part trained. I think that is a really smart answer.
100%. You also have 3 muscle groups that are much larger than the other 2.
Mm-hmm.
Your legs, chest, and back are a whole lot bigger than your arms and shoulders now.
Sure.
So common sense would tell you they can use more sets. They can use more volume. They can use more work.
But yeah, tracking volume becomes complicated very quick. A good example is like a lat pull down, right? Yes, you're training back, but if you've ever noticed, your biceps get fatigued. So, you know, the question is does that volume applied to your biceps actually count towards the weekly volume or not? And so
there's no answer.
Yeah, I mean, I think though, if you're, and this would be hard to maybe figure out, like if 30% of the load's actually targeting that muscle, it should count. But again, in a practical sense, that's going to be hard. I think just ask yourselves, like, how fatiguing was that on your bicep? If you're like, oh man, I can't even perform now because that damaged my bicep so bad, then that volume counted for you.
Sure, and that's a bad thing on back day, baby. Dave and Buster, welcome back, Dave. Too close to 1 rep max will likely lead to injury. This will take you out of the gym. That leads to no consistency. Consistency, the wins every time over 1 rep max. Very good point. If you're injured, you're done.
Yeah.
And it's depending on how bad the injury is. You can work around it, perhaps.
Right.
But nobody wants to get hurt. And you are, I mean, it's a fine line, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to lift heavy. You want to recruit as many muscles as you can, but none of us want to get injured.
Yeah, James and I very rarely actually go out there and do a 1 rep max. Occasionally we'll be lifting and it feels good to overreach, right? Like you're ready to overreach. And when we do, we're adding like a micro load. I think we talked about this yesterday. We're adding like 2.5 pounds, 5 pounds. We're not adding 45-pound plates on there and going for the 1 rep max. Like we are just barely overreaching, right? So you got to keep it safe for sure. So yeah, if you're working out a particular body part and another one becomes fatigued and it's feeling very fatigued, like you really went to town on it, then yes, that probably counts as some volume in your weekly volume on that muscle group. Do you ever do seal rows?
Native grit. Do you ever do seal rows? I added block pulls.
I don't, just because we don't have this setup. We went to Daylin Bailey's gym way back when she had it in PA, and they had a steel row bench, and I loved it. But once I get too heavy, I feel like I'm getting crushed.
Thank you. Native grit, I have done seal rows. I haven't done them in a long time, but if you put any weight on that bar, I can't breathe, brother. It's like crushing my chest and all the weight's down there, and I'm like, lightweight, sure. But getting up into the heavy weights, I can't breathe doing a seal row.
I love his seal row, though. We follow him on Instagram. It looks cool. Your whole gym setup, I love it for sure. It's awesome.
I mean, I have the same problem on a T-bar row. If you have a supported T-bar row, I can't breathe on that either. It's going too heavy on my chest. I can't breathe.
I want to like the T-bar row though. Like it feels good at first doing it, but like you said, too much weight and you're getting crushed there.
I mean, we don't have it anymore, but if we did, it'd probably be a good, if you're pre-exhausted and you don't have to go so heavy.
Right. All right, so back to volume. When it comes to volume, it's kind of this U-curve kind of relationship, right? Like as you increase volume initially, you're going to get better gains initially. And then at some point, you're going to hit that optimal point of volume, which is really going to trigger growth for you. And then after that, it's going to kind of stall, right? Like that, the more volume you use, the less gains it's going to yield. So there is an optimal point in there for the volume, and it is pretty individualized for every person. I can't answer like James's optimal volume versus mine. It's not going to be the same.
Well said. We're all Mike Mentzer fans. I'm a huge Mike Mentzer fan, and he preaches 1 set to failure when you got Arnold doing 2-hour workouts twice a day. So neither one of them are wrong.
Right.
And once again, I don't know if we have an answer. Here's where, to me, Mike falls short. He talks about getting sunburnt, right? You go out, you get sunburnt, you spend too much time, then you're going to, peel and degrade and break down your muscle. He's comparing it to muscle. However, he never talks about, hey, you get a base tan. Now you can spend 20 minutes in the sun instead of 10. Oh, and now you got a base tan plus some. Now you can spend 30 minutes instead of 10. Never touches any of that. Same thing with the blisters on your hands. You know, once they heal, they can take a whole lot more beating than the first ones, right? See my calluses there?
Those things, you guys. Go need to get a manicure or something.
Got a couple calluses, but once again, he only mentions, hey, you'll rip them off and then you degrade and go backwards. Once they heal, they can take more of a beating. So that's, to me, where Mensa goes wrong. The high intensity, absolutely. The one set, absolutely. But after you do it one time,
what happens?
Your body adapted. Now you got to add another set or go heavier.
Yeah, the other thing too, I think sometimes about Arnold's training and like training for 2 hours, whatever, he might have a very high pain threshold, you guys. Like he might be able to reach that true muscular failure we were talking about because he's got the gall and the grit to take himself there, whereas most people would tap out because it'd be like this grotesque amount of pain.
We also all, I assume we're all Arnold fans and know that he likes to talk. So he wasn't in the gym for 2 hours working out. You know, he was messing with his buddies. He's BSing. He likes to talk. So believe me, he wasn't in there grinding for 2 hours straight. Same with Eddie Hall. If you watch Eddie Hall's documentary, he's in the gym for 4 hours. Eddie Hall likes to talk, yo. He's not in the gym grinding for 4 hours. I'm sure he's doing his thing just like Arnold was. But they're taking time to go talk. You know, we went to the gym this morning. It was 37 minutes. I said, holy smokes. I got through so much in 37. Well, I didn't stretch. I didn't warm up. We just got in there and got going and rolled and rock and rolled and got home. Nobody was there. I mean, it was early, so nobody was there to talk to, etc. But you get my point. All right. Angel, this is a good question. Which is better, training to failure or training with a good mind and muscle connection? I prefer a good mind and muscle connection. The correct answer, Angel, is training to failure with a good mind and muscle connection. That is the correct answer. But if you can't, and the heavier you go, the harder it is to connect, mind and muscle connect to that weight. That's a good question.
I mean, but I think, again, failure, right? Are we talking muscular failure or technical failure? I think training to technical failure with a solid mind muscle connection is the right answer.
It is. But there's a lot of variables. Good question, Angel. I'm going to think about that one for a while. Aileen, Meadows Rows feel good. They do. It's been a while since I've done them, but that's another great back exercise.
That hurts my shoulders. I don't know. I want to like that one too, but it usually, I can't do them too heavy.
It's a lot of your dough.
For sure. All right, you guys. So yes, think of a U curve or a bell curve when it comes to volume. You're going to ramp up that volume. You're going to get really good progress and gains for a while. You're going to hit an optimal point though, somewhere in there. And then beyond that, with excessive volume, you're going to get stalled progress or end up overtrained.
Jump volume.
So, and James and I will attempt to answer this for you guys. You know, for most lifters, James and I would say anywhere between like 4 to 10 sets per muscle per week that hit the sweet spot. Maybe even a little less than 10. I would say 4 to 6 unless you are an advanced lifter, and then save that 6 to 10 range for the advanced lifter.
Yeah, once again, that show I watched with all the PhDs, they said the same exact thing. The advanced does this, intermediate does this, and beginner does this, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, you're talking about ripping the calluses over, making it stronger. Well, advanced lifter can just take a pretty good beating, right? So they need to maybe do a little more to get the same result as the beginner or the intermediate.
Either more volume or more intensity. You are correct. Either way, you have to do more as you advance in this sport.
Yeah. So definitely, if you haven't been paying attention to how many total sets you're getting, think about that. And this does not include your warm-up sets. Like we're talking about those sets that are at that, 60 to 85% of your 1 rep max. Like how many of those sets are you doing per week for biceps, chest, back, whatever? And then keep in mind what I talked about earlier. Like if you're training your lats, but you're feeling those biceps and you're feeling them pretty good where you're like, I think I did some damage, that counts towards your bicep sets. And usually people kind of recognize this because they'll go to train arm and like, oh man, they're still sore. Like, okay, well, you probably already got the volume you needed earlier in the week. So,
Dave Buster, when I lose my mind to muscle connection, I find my technique starts to drift. Very good point.
Yeah, I could see that for sure.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You know, back when I was a beginner, I would close my eyes to try to get that mind to muscle connection. If my eyes were open, I couldn't get it. I can get it now, like, you know, second nature. But as a beginner, I had to literally close my eyes, not look in the mirror, not look at anybody else, close my eyes and connect to that muscle while I'm lifting.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, you know, if you train with a gym buddy and you are trying to talk while you're lifting, you probably aren't focusing on your mind-muscle connection. So definitely pause those conversations until after you're done lifting.
Aileen, 10 sets of hamstring is a lot in one session. That's a whole lot.
Yes. So
10 working sets?
Yes, that would be probably too much in one session. So you would want to split that up either in multiple exercises or different days.
Yeah. So let's break this down for a minute here. You're talking 10 working sets. So if you do one working set per exercise, that's 10 exercises. I'm not sure I know 10 hamstring exercises. I'm sure if I think about it for a while, but that's a whole lot for a hamstring, man.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that does get to the point, like I was talking about before, where other exercises can create fatigue and count towards the total volume. So maybe for whatever reason, when Aileen's doing leg press, he's getting a lot of fatigue on those hamstrings. I know I do. Like I'm hammy dominant on the leg press. Same with squats, RDLs, whatever. So he maybe could do that within 5 exercises or so, total volume. But
perhaps, but you're stretching.
Yeah.
Nobody's going in and saying, I'm doing hamstrings today. Let me do some front squats. Right?
Right. I hear you. All right. So just remember, you guys, too little volume, not enough stimulus, too much volume, pretty poor recovery, joint stress, and honestly, regression, which is not good. So the best results really come from a moderate load of volume and a high quality of work. So if you try to target that 4 to 10 sets per week, per muscle group, that's going to hit the sweet spot.
Yeah, that was repeated in the YouTube show, podcast, whatever you want to say. But I'm going to say this, and this has been common knowledge forever, but I guess really most people don't realize when they quote a study, and every PhD said this, these are untrained athletes. Almost every one of these studies is done with untrained athletes. They don't do studies on trained athletes.
Right. And even when they do studies with trained athletes, I got to question the integrity of the trained athlete, because as a bodybuilder, if you ask me to come in and do, I don't know, like one leg, I'm doing leg extensions, and the other leg, I'm doing like sissy squats, I'm not going to do that. That's going to lead to some kind of asymmetry. I'm not going to want that. So I got to question, how advanced are the advanced lifters that they're selecting in their studies when you do find a study that says that. So always question what the population was and consider, does that make sense for, you know, what they picked.
And who funded the study? Say that name.
I'm a
weed lodestone. All right, I'm a weed lodestone. Fire away, man. Dave and Buster, using mind to muscle connection, I can favor a muscle in a compound lift.
I like that. That's like really connected, Dave.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, I can do it somewhat, you know, the lat pull down.
All right?
Sorry, the lat pull down, you know, bicep or back, depending on which one you want to squeeze. So I get it, Dave. That's pretty good. Fantastic. You can do that. And that is good. Great mind to muscle connection right there. All right. I'm a weed lodestone 547. First question is about 3-phase cut. I do cardio before I lift. I have to get the blood hot, then jump into the workout. I don't see a question there.
Yeah, I definitely would limit how much cardio you're doing before you lift. If you need to like walk for 5 minutes before doing leg day, that's fine. But if we're talking 20 minutes plus, you're burning through your glycogen stores, which you need to hit the intensity that we're talking about today.
Yes, and I told this story a million times. I worked at a college as a young man. I worked in the weight room. Well, they would ask me to play basketball because they needed extra body. Anytime I played basketball before I lifted, my lifts suck. I'm tired. I'm fatigued. I just went all out on the basketball court, and now I'm going to go in here and lift. No, lift first.
Right.
And then after a couple of times, I said, listen, guys, I got to lift first. I'll play, but I'm lifting first. And then I can't make a shot for nothing because my muscles are fatigued or whatever. But
Right.
I didn't care about basketball anyway. So, all right. Photos 80s Jeff. Have either of you pulled a stomach muscle or hernia? I have an umbilical hernia. Any advice? Watch your breathing. Oh man, that's unfortunate, brother. I thought I had a hernia a couple months ago, but I went and got checked out, and it wasn't a hernia; it was something else.
I mean, I did as a newborn, but not since then. But I will tell you, photos 80 Jeff, I did have my gallbladder removed, which the way they do it, they do create kind of little incisions, and you do have to be careful. So I definitely used a weight belt during that time, just so I had kind of compression in that area, and I was very careful, like you said, on the breathing and how I was doing it. Like, you have to be locked into that form, or do things like seated, supported a little differently than you normally would.
I think you're going to need surgery for those days. I hope not, but I think
usually that's the answer.
The only fix is surgery. Yeah. Get it done as quick as you can and get back, baby. That's my advice.
All right. We answered the first question. Where's the second one?
I'm a wee little stone. You just I guess we did answer that. Yeah. Okay. Big T, I've had 2 sports hernias. They're not fun. Oh, hey. Fawn Angel, what up? Welcome back.
Yeah. All right. So you guys remember, like, the sweet spot when it comes to volume is really going to be what can you recover from? So if strength and performance is going up, your volume's probably at the right spot. If you're starting to notice some kind of stall, back off a little bit or change the load and see if that kind of helps you, because it is going to be very personalized on what's the right volume there.
All right. Second question. Here we go. In 3-phase cut in the cycle, should I lift heavy after the 3rd cycle? For example, I work out each muscle group twice a week.
Not sure I fully understand that.
Me neither.
But let's talk a minute about, So let's talk a little bit about programming and practical takeaways on volume versus intensity, and maybe it will answer the question there. If not, maybe reword that.
Cycle 3, should I go heavy on the 3rd cycle?
So this is kind of person dependent. You know, you kind of can't live at either extreme, too heavy or too much volume. The goal is to find balance in there and create an appropriate amount of strain and be able to recover. So a sample block structure that someone could use for their programming would be like weeks 1 through 3, moderate load, slightly higher volume. You're kind of building work capacity, if you will. And then you could say, all right, weeks 4 to 6, I'm going to move a heavier load. I'm going to pull the volume back, and I'm going to really focus on creating like solid strain on my muscle fibers. And then you could say, all right, week 7, it's more of that deload week. So things are going to be pretty light. I'm focused on recovery. So that's just an example. I don't know if that answered the question.
Yeah. I'm a wean load stone. This is going to be individualized. It's going to be completely up to you, what you can do, how advanced you are, et cetera, et cetera. So there's not really an answer because we don't know your history or anything like that. I would say go heavy, baby. Always go heavy. But you know, you're doing your phases. You got to stick to your phase. Whatever your next phase is, that's what you're going to do.
Right.
And if you don't have it, you should, you know, if you're at your last phase, you should already know what your next phase is going to be. All right, Fallen Angel. So when you say volume, what do you mean exactly? Like more reps, more exercises?
Yeah, so volume is literally the reps times the weight times the amount of sets you did. And we look at it per muscle group per week. So if you kind of calculated that all up, that would be like your total volume that you did on biceps, chest, back, whatever it may be. I think we talked about it a little earlier, but you joined a little later maybe. But yeah, that is volume. Intensity that we were talking about earlier is a percentage of your 1 rep max. So it's how hard, how heavy did you lift? Whereas volume is kind of that relationship between the weight, the reps, and the amount of sets that you've done. So hopefully that answers the question.
Sets, reps, and weights, baby.
Yeah.
That's volume. 4 to 6 sets, light and mid. That's the next phase, I'm assuming.
Okay.
Stick to it. If that's your program,
place to start.
If that's your program, stick with it. If
4
you're
to,
not,
yeah.
you know, if you're not happy with your results after a couple months, then look to switch it up. But stick with your program, whatever it is at this point.
Yeah, I think Dave and Buster usually said that consistency is key. So if you do a couple cycles through that program and you're not seeing the gains you want, well, then that's when you go back and tweak it and say, all right, well, maybe I do moderate to high load, slightly less volume, less sets there, and try that.
Native grit. I calculate the volume and try to beat it the following week.
Nice.
That would be a form of progressive overloading.
Yeah, I mean, if you are progressive overloading, you should definitely be able to beat it. If not, you would ask yourself like, oh, hey, what happened? Did I not recover? Did I not sleep? All of those things. So yeah, hopefully that example block structure made sense that I gave to you guys. Everyone's different. Like maybe you don't do 3 weeks of moderate load and higher volume. Maybe it's a little less, maybe it's a little more. You got to play around with it and figure out what works best for you, and go from there.
Yep. I'm a weed lodestone. Appreciate it. I really needed the input. That input. I'm getting back to my workout. See you next week. You're very welcome. Get some.
But yeah, this is how you kind of keep progressing without burnout, you guys. You got to push the limits, but you got to know when it's time to like pull it back. And then you got to know when it's time to like pull forward and repeat. So definitely try to strike that balance between the intensity and the volume.
Yeah, I said earlier, it's a fine line. You know, we all want to push the limits, but nobody wants to get hurt.
Right.
We all want to make gains. Nobody wants to regress, but it is a fine line where, I mean, Dave already brought it up. 1 rep max,
right.
You're pretty much eventually asking for an injury.
Yeah. I mean, I usually do go a couple weeks and then I'm like stalled out on my ability to keep adding weight. And then that's when I'm like, all right, I'm going to pull the weight back a little bit and add a little more volume, a little more reps in there. And it is challenging all over again at a different rep range. So you can progress different ways. You know, you don't have to get stuck in one way or another.
Yeah. There's a lot of roads to success. We already talked about Arnold and Mike Mentor. They're on 2 way different sides of the spectrum. Both made it successful. Both had very great physiques and just different styles, you know. Doesn't mean one was right. Doesn't mean one was wrong. They both got success, just different ways.
So Aileen's got a question for you.
Aileen, so we're going to do 375 bench. If I can get Camille out of bed, I'm going to attempt it. Yes, sir. Either tomorrow morning or Tuesday. I haven't decided yet. I'm feeling pretty beat up. So if I wake up tomorrow morning feeling beat up, it'll be Tuesday. If I wake up tomorrow ready to rock and roll, we're going to hit 375 tomorrow. All right. Fallen Angel, when do you increase weight? Like, how do you know when the weight is too light? Great question. So the general recipe is 6 to 10 reps. So if you can do 11, add weight and go back down to 6. Then the following week do 7. The following week do 8. The following week do 9. The following week do 10, and then add weight again. Go back to 6.
Yeah.
And then 7, 8, 9, 10. Go back to 6. Heavier weight. 7, 8, 9, 10. Heavier weight, and just keep that cycle. Keep repeating that cycle.
Yeah. I mean, I always try to go in there and add weight if I can. But if I can't, I just hit my previous best. And then when I'm feeling good, that's when I overreach and we'll go for the heavier weight or additional reps. Because it might not be every week and every session you go in there that you're doing that. But if you get to the point where you're like, I haven't added a rep and I haven't added weight and it's been 3 weeks, well, something's not right. So you need to take a look at the recovery, the sleep, the food, all of those things and figure out what happened.
And you're going to find in that recipe, if you do it, the more often you do it, you can't wait to drop back down to 6 because crushing out that 10th rep is a lot harder than adding 5 pounds and dropping back down to 6 reps.
And so to answer the first part of this question, this is where I do use rate of perceived effort, especially if it's an exercise. Let's say it's not an exercise I've been progressive overloading and tracking. I'll go in and tell myself, I want to hit an 8 or a 9, which is like the max you can go on the rate of perceived effort scale. And that helps me pick a right weight. Because if not, Fallen Angel, you're wasting 3-4 weeks progressive overloading, adding weight just because it's way too light, right? So that's kind of how I gauge how to set my weights appropriate in the first place. It's pretty much the only time I use rate of perceived effort is a new exercise.
Interesting. So back in the day, I mean, we're talking the 90s. You would do your 1 rep max, and then you would back off for your 1 rep max.
That's craziness.
For your reps. That's how you would find your weight to do your 10 reps. You would do your 1 rep max, and then there was a book. You look at, okay, my 1 rep max was 315. I should be doing 10 reps at 280.
I mean, you can calculate kind of based on lower weights too. There's calculators out there for it. But eventually, if you're tracking it, you will close that gap and catch up. But hey, we don't want to waste a bunch of time. So go out there and hit what you feel effort-wise is an 8 or a 9, which meant you could do a couple more reps if you had to and start there. That'll get you close to where you need to be.
Yeah, once again, if you track in everything, it's eventually going to catch up and you will be at the intensity levels that you need to be.
But yeah, I want to hear from you guys. Are you guys team high load, high intensity, or are you team high volume? So right intensity or volume on which camp you are. Because most people aren't both. They're not usually high intensity and high volume. So you're either high volume, lower intensity, or high intensity, low volume.
I'm going to have to lean towards high intensity. It's just more efficient. Mike Menser was doing it 3 workouts, a half-hour workout. Arnold's in there twice a day, 2 hours a day. It's way more efficient to go intense.
Yeah, I'm team intensity myself. So I want to hear from you, right intensity or right volume in there for us?
And most of the breakdown in the gym is not going hard enough. You know, you can do a volume all day long with the pencil. You're not going to get muscles lifting a pencil. You can do volume for 10 years in the body pump class. You're not going to build it unless you're lifting them heavy weights, man.
Yeah.
All right, what we got here? Fallen Angel, I would say high intensity now, right? Native Grit, my Amazon logbook drives me crazy. And Aileen intensity here. So, I mean, it's a good point. If you're doing the volume, I'm sorry, I missed one. Dave and Buster, what do you think about Larson presses? I like the idea of working my chest, not my legs. Also, let me use a lower weight, but get the advantages of pressing. I don't know what a Larson press is.
I don't know what a Larson press is either.
It's probably the standing machine where you squat and you press it at the same time. Judging by your question here. I would agree. If you're doing a total body workout, maybe that's a good exercise, but split your legs and your chest into 2 different workouts.
Sure.
That's my opinion on it, if that's the correct lift.
All right. Well, we got 4 high intensities. Me, James, Fallen Angel, Aileen.
Yeah. And once again, you know, you can do it with volume, but do you have 4 hours a day, every day?
And it would hurt, you guys. You got to hit true mechanical failure, muscle failure. So that would hurt.
If you're going to muscle failure on a light weight, the lactic acid burn is insane. I mean, you're probably talking 20, 30 reps before you actually hit that failure.
Right.
And it hurts.
Yeah, your body basically can't clear the hydrogen ions fast enough, and you feel it. Yeah, you feel that accumulation there in the muscle tissue.
I mean, lifting heavy hurts too, but not like that burn on them high reps. You know, it's probably a good idea to do it every once in a while, just get that burn going. But to me, intensity is just more efficient, man. I did a push-up video years ago, and I said, yeah, push-ups will work, but you're going to have to eventually do 500-600 push-ups progressively overloading when you could just put weight on that bar and do 10 reps. You know what I mean? It's a much more efficient way to build muscle than to just progressively overload your push-ups to non-ending, 900, 1,000 push-ups. Come on.
Right.
You can do it much more efficiently. Dave and Buster, it's a bench press, but your legs are not on the floor. Okay.
Yeah, I like pressing like that personally.
I gotta go back to the question.
you can press, like you end up pressing less if your feet aren't on the floor because you can't use that leg drive in there.
It's less stability.
Yeah.
So you're going to be using your core a lot more as well because you're stabilizing that weight because your feet aren't on the ground.
Intensity in the cage with safety, says Native Grit. You got it. Keyword safeties.
Safely intense. Yeah, I like that.
We get a lot of questions on this intensity versus volume thing all the time. One of the common ones I get as a female trainer is, do women need more volume than men? Like, shouldn't I lift lighter but more instead of like heavier loads? I don't want to get bulky, is like the thing that I get asked a lot. And I say, okay. And then, yeah, over time, I end up working with my clients and we are lifting very intense loads. We're managing the volume. So I try to debunk that myth and show them that it doesn't really work that way.
Yeah. Remember, you have to do a breakthrough set to make muscles. Whether you're doing intensity or high volume, you still have to do the breakthrough set or it isn't going to work.
Right.
Fallen angel, push-ups are for when you're on vacation, you don't have access to it.
Or you're doing a push-up challenge at work, like I was.
All right, so I was active duty for 3 years. I probably did 3 million push-ups in those 3 years. Take a look at the military. Are these guys in the greatest shape? Do they have massive muscles? No. And they're forced to work out an hour every day. 5 days a week, they're working out an hour. They're forced to. They have to. They are not massively muscular.
Right.
Now, are they training to be masculine? No. You're training for endurance. That's why you do push-ups, sit-ups, and run. If it was training for maximum muscular intensity and size, they'd be in the gym lifting weights. So that's a good example right there to tell you what push-ups are.
Well, and let's talk about this. Like, soreness does not equate volume, you guys. Like, when I was doing that push-up challenge for Suicide Awareness Month, I was doing on the order of 300 push-ups a day. And were my pecs sore? Yes, they were sore to the touch down to the rib cage, you guys. That does not mean I created any type of hypertrophy whatsoever. So while, yes, my pecs were fatigued, that did not equate quality volume. So I would not have counted that towards my weekly chest volume just because I was sore. Another question I get all the time is, can I grow with light weights? Hopefully we answer that for you today. Yes, but you're going to have to do a lot of volume and it's going to hurt. So that does answer that question for you.
Dave and Buster, intensity over volume. You're always getting more volume than you think because you're using your muscles in secondary lifts, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
Very good point. And we got another intensity.
Yeah. Another question James and I get all the time, is training to failure every set really necessary? For every set, no. But do you at least need one good set where you train to failure and you're in that 60 to 85% of your 1 rep max? Yes, absolutely. Like, you should hit technical failure on at least one of those sets.
Yeah. I think it's funny, and different people's brain works different ways. These people want to know exactly how many sets, how many reps, and how much weight. Well, this is individualized. There's no template I can tell you. You know what I mean? If I'm training you for a couple years, I got it. I can tell you. However, if you're coming off the street and matter of fact, most of these people have never even been to the gym and they want to know exactly how much weight they should be lifting.
Yeah, it's hard.
You've never walked into the gym before. I don't know how much weight you should be lifting. You don't know how much weight you should be lifting. You got to go in there and do it and get it on and get going. And they want the answers before they even walk into the gym.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
that takes me like 2-3 weeks.
What the heck? This some kind of engineering scientist that just has to have the answers before they walk into the gym.
I take offense to that comment. In any case, another question we get was kind of along that lines is like, how many sets per muscle week do I need? What is ideal for me? Like, that's different for every person. I can't answer that. We talked about it today. Like, it's going to be different for beginner, intermediate, advanced, highly individualized. So can't answer that. We just know somewhere between 4 and 10 sets is where the average person's going to be. So,
Aileen, so if I understand, for the chest, you need 5 exercises and each 2 working sets. That's 10 sets. That would work.
Mm-hmm.
That would work 100%. And you've been doing it a while, Aileen. You're probably in the sweet spot right there.
Yeah. Another question we get is, what matters more, total volume or quality volume? That's kind of like a throwaway question, right?
If it's not quality, it's crap.
Yeah, you can't just be doing junk volume to do junk volume. James and I have talked about that with you guys. Like, we used to train and we did a lot of junk volume. And I think that junk volume caused a lot of unnecessary fatigue. It really limited gains for about a 2-year period that we were doing that.
Yeah.
And I do regret that time period where we were doing that. So
you live and you learn, right? Mm-hmm. So we gave it a go, Arnold style. We gave it a go, baby. It just didn't work.
Yeah, we were doing doubles. So if it was back day, we would train in the morning. And then at lunchtime, we would meet up and we would train back again. We'd be doing supersets, drop sets, like rest pause. And yeah, towards the later part of that second workout, those weren't good sets. Like, they weren't good at all. We weren't lifting intensely. So the load wasn't there and the form wasn't there. So it was just junk volume.
It's a good learning process. Mm-hmm. Dave and Buster, I agree. Failure on the last set plus intensifiers will give you multiple failures per exercise. It's a great point. Nobody's talked about rest pause. That's a 1 rep failure right there, and you do it multiple times.
Yeah, love it. Great intensifying technique. All right, you guys. Well, I think we have definitely beat that one to death today. Intensity versus volume. If there's some key takeaways from today, I'll tell you, think of intensity as the actual load that you lifted. What percent of your 1 rep max, right? Whereas effort is more, how heavy did it feel? It's that rate of perceived effort. Don't confuse the two. And when you're looking at social media and someone's like, that was an intense workout, they're talking about effort most of the time. They're not talking about true intensity the way we're talking about intensity. So keep that in mind. Another takeaway is just technical failure is going to beat muscle failure, over the long haul. Like, we're talking about hypertrophy. We're talking about growing muscles. Aim for technical failure. So lift until your form starts to break down and then stop.
It's a safe way to do it.
In terms of lifting, remember you've got 3 different types of muscle fibers. The heavier you lift, the better chance you have of recruiting all 3 from the onset of the lift. So go back to that pencil analogy and how many muscle fibers to curl that pencil up and down versus a 45-pound weight. So yeah, see, we have some questions on there.
Big T, I tried push-pull legs and it was too much volume since I lift heavy. That's great. You recognize that, T. A lot of people just keep grinding, not realizing, hey, this is too much volume. Good stuff, buddy. And I would agree, if you are lifting heavy, that'd
be a lot.
It's a 6-day-a-week split. That's a lot. All right. Fawn Angel, can't wait to train tomorrow.
Yes.
Hopefully the gym won't be too crowded, but it will be Monday.
International Chest Day.
Fawn Angel, do you know why gym's crowded on Monday and not Friday? Because everybody over the weekend goes, I'm going to start working out this week. I'm going to go 5 days a week. I'm going to get it. We're going to go. And guess what? By Wednesday, half of them are already falling off. And then the weekend comes and they beat their chest again. I'm going to do it this week. I'm going to do it. And it's going to be this week. And I got it. And they show up Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday they start fizzling out.
Yeah, sure.
I've been in the gym industry for 20 plus years, man. Let me tell you, Mondays are packed. Go ahead and show up on a Friday night.
Empty. All right, you guys, remember that U-shaped bell curve when it comes to volume. So volume drives adaptations, which we want, but only within your recovery. So the more excessive your volume gets, the less you're able to recover, the less muscle protein synthesis that's going to occur. So remember that. And then lastly, if you want us to put a number out there for you, it's 2 to 10 quality sets per week per muscle group is the sweet spot. And remember, just about anything will work for a beginner, whether they do the lighter end or heavier end of that volume range. The more advanced you are, you definitely should be in that upper end of the volume range per week.
Right. Think about it. You know, the weights are just a stressor. Mm-hmm. And if you're coming off the couch, anything you lift is going to be a stressor. However, if you've been lifting for a couple years, you're going to have to up your stressor to keep growing.
Right.
And that's in the form of weight or reps.
You got it. I like to think of it as intensity kind of sparks that growth. The volume is what sustains that growth. And so you need to have balance to the two, and then the results will come. I promise you guys, the results will come if you're consistent there. So yeah, in closing, I really hope that you learned something today, and remember to hit that super thanks and drop us a comment. And let us know what you guys want to hear about next Sunday. You guys, we're here for you. So if there's topics and things you want to talk about, definitely drop us a comment and we'll make sure we work it into one of these live updates for you guys.
Yep. Aileen, Friday's arm day for the weekend. I
There
love
you
that,
go.
dude. Once again, I was on active duty. So Friday, we usually got off early, and every dude would go to the gym and get a pump. So they got a pump Friday night, putting their T-shirts on, rolling them up so their muscles are popping out at the bar or wherever the heck they're going. But yes, 100% Friday is arm day at the gym.
Love it.
Fallen Angel, thank you guys. Very welcome, brother. Happy to help.
All right. Well, happy Sunday, everyone. We will see you next week. Stay tuned.
You're welcome, Angel. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Appreciate you.